Welcome to the College Football X with your hosts, Jon Nelson and John Wilkerson.
The College Football X continues down in South Florida. We're joined by the voice of the Miami Hurricanes, Joe Zagacki. Joe, many thanks for taking time today to talk to us here on the College Football X.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it, John.
You know, let's go back to Saturday. It was widely known that Cam Ward is a pretty talented quarterback, what he did at Incarnate Word and at Washington State. But having a home opener with a new team in Miami in Gainesville at the Swamp, that's a test. And Cam Ward passed the test in flying colors. Did you get a sense that this type of game might happen on Saturday with Cam Ward?
I thought he was going to play well. I didn't know that Miami would play as well around him. And so I think that was probably number one, is that the confidence of Cam Ward became contagious to the University of Miami. But in studying Cam Ward prior to this game, the only way you could really study him was in practice and or look at his games from last year. And if you looked at his last game of last season, Washington State went to Washington, and with about 30 seconds to go in the game, it was 21-21. He nearly knocked Washington out of the playoffs single-handedly. And the way he played in that game with the same gunslinger attitude is pretty much the way he played against the University of Florida. He never takes his eyes off of being down the field. And when he decides he's going to throw the ball, he lets it fly, man. I mean, it comes out in a hurry, and he is decisive. When he decides or where it's going to go, it happens in a hurry. So wasn't so surprised about the way he played, but everybody around him also played great. So it made for a wonderful afternoon if you were a Miami Hurricane.
Exactly. I don't know if you got a chance to see the TV broadcast, but several shots of him on the sidelines of Cam Ward, and he was just cool as can be. And that seemed to reflect on the team. Yeah, I mean, you're mentioning that in your answer there, but that kind of reflected on the team. They were calm, cool, and collected, wouldn't you say?
I would say one of the big keys in the game was Miami did not get any pre-snap penalties. They had 2 penalties in the entire game, I believe, 2 penalties. The crowd noise did not cause any penalties. Miami has had a problem with penalties for years and years, not only under Mario Cristobal, but just about everybody else, especially when they would go into an environment like Gainesville. But under Cam Ward's guidance and direction, and I thought the coordinators, I thought Shawn Daniel did a great job with the offense, and the offensive line coach, Alex Mirabal, I thought he had the Miami offensive line in a great spot. They were all, I would call it, very quiet and very smooth. There just wasn't a lot of crazy movement, except by Cam Ward. The technology seemed to work like a charm. And I thought what stood out to me at the beginning of the game, on the first drive, he had 2 runs. In both occasions, he ran out of bounds. I mean, he gently went out of bounds. It's like he tiptoed like Baryshnikov out of bounds. And you don't normally see that from a quarterback. You know, guys rush their way out of bounds, but he just kind of waltzed off the field. And then when he was under pressure twice, he scrambled all the way back to like the 40-yard line. I thought, gee, if you get sacked, now this is really going to backfire. But he seemed to be in control the whole time.
Defeating Florida 41-17, what kind of tone does that set for the season?
Well, a part of me wants to say, John, if Miami doesn't win another game, at least they have Florida and pounded them into submission. But the tone that it does set is, I think, again, the confidence of the program, the confidence of the players will permeate around the program. A lot of these guys came in April, maybe some came in January. You had recruits, you had transfer portal guys. Thought the challenge was welding them all together into a team. And now they go into Gainesville. They were very confident going into that game. And I think good players like to be around good players, but I think that helps them set the tone for what's in front of them. I think now they know, hey, as a team, we came from different places, but now here in Miami, we've got a chance to have something very special happen.
And as the voice of the Hurricanes, you're a man of the people. You get the sense of what the fan base is like. How'd the fan base react to this win?
Over the moon and back. I mean, you know, University of Miami fans like to stick our chest out a little bit, and we got the 5 championships that back that up over and over. Now, it's been a bit of a drought here over the last 24 years. But when you go into Gainesville and beat Florida the way Miami beat them, which was, I think, one of the worst losses, if not the worst loss in the history of the series, it's tied for the most points by Miami in the series. That gives a fan base a lot of fuel, a lot of things to brag about, and Miami's going to have Florida fans in a headlock for the next 365 days.
Well, you're not going to get very many frequent flyer miles in September because the Hurricanes stay in the state of Florida throughout the month. I mean, you got Florida A&M and Ball State coming to your place. Your road game, and I say that in air quotes, is in Tampa against South Florida, and then Virginia Tech comes calling to South Florida. But then you guys will get a dose of the new ACC reality after that when you have to go for your first true road game to Berkeley, California at the beginning of October. Knowing that this is the new ACC reality, how have you guys planned for that?
Well, I think that's going to be the tricky part of the schedule. They play Virginia Tech on a Friday night, and that was kind of strategic because Miami's going to leave on Thursday, the following Thursday, for California, and they're going to treat it a little bit like a bowl game. They're going to take the biggest airplane they've got, and so they can put everybody on that big airplane, and everybody can stretch out and be comfortable for the 6-hour flight to California. They're going to go on Thursday so that Friday they can be acclimated, play the game on Saturday, and then I think the plan is not to come back until Sunday. I don't know that's for sure, but there's a bye week after that. So they have some time to get back here to South Florida, then rest up in what becomes a very critical 2 weeks. They will be at Louisville, and then Florida State comes calling. And despite what's happened to Florida State so far, anytime Miami and Florida State play is still an exhausting, emotional experience. So I think that 4 or 5 weeks is really going to be the tricky part of the schedule.
Well, you know as well as I do, Miami and FSU will always be appointment television. This is too good of a rivalry. So as you're preparing for Florida A&M on Saturday, what will be on your board when you're in the broadcast booth on Saturday?
Well, I'm working on that right now, John. We're on Tuesday, so we're getting through the board. The board takes the entire week to work, but a couple of things do jump out. One would be Florida A&M. They've won 13 games in a row, and I always say, no matter who the opponent is, if they win a lot of games in a row, generally they're a tough out because they feel like they're invincible. They feel like they're never going to lose. FAMU hasn't lost since last September. So I think that is something that should get Miami's attention. The other thing is they've got a bunch of guys that are transfers. 55 players are back from their championship team a year ago. The rest of them are transfers, with more than a half a dozen coming from Power Four conferences. They've got quite a few guys from FAU. They've got guys from everywhere. The quarterback is from FAU. So he played against Clemson. So he's not going to be afraid to play against the University of Miami. And a lot of those FAMU players also played high school football against Miami players. So they're going to have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. So I think, one of the things you look at on the board is the competitiveness that there's going to be because the guys have played each other. And then the other thing for Miami, if it goes well, I suspect they would like to play a lot of players. So get as many people on that board as possible with their background information.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, living in Georgia and for all those around the country and in South Florida, where can we hear your broadcast?
Well, locally, we are on 560 WQAM. Then you can go to WQAM.com or Odyssey.com, and you can hear us free or live on the free Odyssey app. And then we're on the Sirius XM channels as well, 2 channels on Sirius and the Sirius app. So I think we're covered pretty well.
And I encourage football fans in general to listen to you and Dan Bailey Jr. You guys are one of the better listens in college football.
Well, I appreciate that very much. It's a little bit different. Don is a former player and a center, and then we do have an afternoon show, not us, but the afternoon show. The host there, they feed Don these strange lines to try to work into the broadcast to knock me off my game. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, I just love the enthusiasm you guys have. I mean, it's infectious.
Well, we're both born here in Miami, born and raised, both Floridians. He went to the University of Miami. I've been going to University of Miami games since my dad first took me at 3 years old. So hopefully that comes out in the course of the broadcast.
Well, it sure does. And again, Joe, I really appreciate you taking some time to join us on the College Football X.
Okay, thank you for having me.
That's Joe Zagacki, the voice of the Miami Hurricanes. When we come back, we'll introduce you to another college football program that's starting up. They're a startup program. Jon Nelson has them when we come back.
The online sports guys would love to hear from you. Go to our X page, formerly known as Twitter @OSG Sports, for a comment, rant, or just whatever is on your mind about college football. Now back to the College Football X. Here's Jon Nelson.
Welcome back to the College Football X. The X Factor this week is in the NAIA, because as part of our programming this year, what we like to do is we like to catch up with some of the newer faces that are dropping into college football, and we get to do that at Simpson University. Catching up with head coach Shawn Daniel. Coach, first off, congratulations. You're this close to having wins and losses. How does it feel?
It's exciting to finally get on the field and play. One of the best things about the NAIA about a couple of years ago when they made the rule change that you can play in a couple of games and not burn a year of eligibility was a huge factor for us. So last year we played 2 JV games. We had 60 guys on the roster, played 2 games, which were fun. Won one, lost one, but really the whole never mattered because you can't count the stats, can't count the wins. And so this year, 10 games, of course, the biggest news is we started the whole season off being announced that we're going to be in the Frontier Conference in 2025 as full-fledged members. And this year, 2024, we're kind of a scheduling partner for most of the teams in the Frontier. So it's exciting to finally have games, actually, compete and play against somebody, and they matter. They mean something to our players. And we're very excited about what we have now.
When this program became available, open, whatever phrase you want to use, what attracted you to this particular moment in time of being the head coach out there at Simpson? Why chase after this one? Why be a head coach? Those kinds of things. What was, when this opened up, why?
Yeah, so, originally, I'm from California, born and raised. And so I remember when I was a kid growing up, there was football in the state. You had Sonoma State, you had Chico State, you had, Humboldt, which cut not too long ago, Azusa cut not too long ago. California had football. And as a kid growing up, you knew about it. When I graduated from high school, I didn't have the opportunity to play in state. I didn't want to go the junior college route, and there was no 4 years that I could play. It didn't exist. So I had to leave the state. So when the job came open and available, I remember talking about it with my wife and just really praying about it. Say, God, I've always wanted to be a head coach. It's something that I think every assistant or every coordinator strives to be. But I didn't want to be a head coach just anywhere. I wanted to be a head coach at a faith-based organization where I can live out my faith every day in my relationship with Jesus Christ without any problems or any pushback. And 2, I wanted to start my own program. I got hired as the offensive coordinator at Lyon College in Batesville, Arkansas, when they started their program. And I got to see that firsthand, the challenges, the excitement, the whole aspect of starting something that doesn't exist. And I got to work with Kurt Kelly, and which was a great opportunity, and kind of fell in love with the startup aspect. I'm more of that entrepreneur type guy. I love the fact walking in, you have nothing, you just create your own. And that fits me and who I am, who I wanted. So when this job came available, me and my wife talked about it, we prayed about it, and we really felt that this is where we needed to be. And so I was one of the last individuals to apply for the job. I let the job sit for almost 2 months, and then I applied for the job. And then I wound up, after 9 interviews and flying up here for 2 days of interviews. And when they offered me the job, they said, hey, you got, I need an answer within 24 or 48 hours. And I said, I don't need it. I'm taking the job now. There was no hesitation. Me and my wife, my pregnant wife is the time, we have 4 kids and she's pregnant with number 5. We packed up from Kansas and hit the road. 4 days later, we were here in Redding, California, and hit the ground running and started recruiting.
9 interviews?
Oh yeah. It was a lot of interviews. Yes. I arrived on Sunday, interviewed on Sunday for one day. Then we had 6 interviews on Monday and 5 interviews on Tuesday. Before I even arrived, I had 4 interviews before that time. So they want to make sure they got the right guy and the right fit, and understand what you're getting yourself into. When you're starting a football program, you don't spend a lot of time at home. You're on the road a lot. You're doing a lot of fundraising. You're doing a lot of recruiting. And I worked by myself for the first 2-3 months. And then I got to hire one coach in that first year. So it was me and Coach Grimshaw. And that was kind of it. We had a couple of volunteer coaches that came in, but coaching a college football program with 2 guys, that's a lot. And so they want to make sure that you're cut out for the job. But yeah, it's the only NAIA in the whole state. We own the state of California. We're going to do our best to make sure California kids stay home and play ball here.
Have you always thought of yourself as a builder when it comes to your personality, or did you grow into that personality the more that you were a coach in football?
I've always been that. I think my nature and who I am as an individual, I always like to grow and build. I love challenging things. I like to be an entrepreneur. I like to be cutting edge. I'm never going to be in the back. I didn't want to inherit anything. I wanted to create my own. And I've always been that type of person in what I've done. And, even throughout college, if something were to take up, and do you want to start something? I'll start it. I just like to create. And I told people, I was like, great thing about being a first-time college head coach at a brand new program, I don't get to inherit anybody's problems. I get to create my own. And so that's kind of the frustrating about it. And I'm built that way, and I get along with the administration and the staff and just kind of work with them and understand to do some stuff without nothing. I enjoy that very much.
What has been the easiest part of this process to get to this couple of days before your first ever? And what is the most difficult thing about this process now that you're a couple of days before your first ever?
I think that it's really not much easier. I think something becomes just more natural. One thing is in the recruiting aspect. I can walk into a home and I can recruit a kid, or I can go to high school, or I can go to junior college, and I can sell Simpson, and we're a brand new startup program. And you can know right away, they don't want to be a part of something. They want established, they want facilities, they want tradition. Some guys want that. And some guys are like me. They want the opportunity to make history. And I think that is the aspect. There's no in between. Do you want to make history and be the first, or do you want to go to somebody that's established and you get to, and build off what other people built off of? And there's nothing wrong with either of the two, but you can look a player in his eyes and they got that itch in their eyes. Like, oh, I want to create and be the first one to ever score a touchdown, the first one to ever get a sack, and the first one to ever get a win. And those are the guys you surround yourself with. I found that easier because I think it's more of my nature and who I'm attracted to and I can gravitate to. I think probably the most difficult aspect of it is I think navigating the administration, navigating the conference, navigating the recruiting, the high school coaches, navigating all that into a territory where there's, California, once again, no football in the state, but, you got a bunch of D3s in LA, and then you got NCAA Division I schools. So the hard thing is I think the recruiting aspect is guys go to junior college because that's all they've had the opportunity to do for the past 10 to 12 years. So you're trying to create, there is an opportunity. There is a 4-year out there. And I think changing that mindset is one thing that has been kind of tough in some areas.
When you get to connect with that student athlete, because I know that you are looking for a specific type of student athlete, the one that wants to be a part of something, wants to be a part of a build, wants to be a part of history. When you get to connect with that student athlete and the light comes on, it's like, okay, that student athlete, he gets it as to what we're trying to do here. What's that like for you, whether it's via Zoom or being in the room with them, when you see that light come on about, oh yeah, I want to be a part of something like this? What's that like for you?
It's kind of exciting because, like I said, it's something you just kind of attract to, because I can look across on that couch or across that table and I see myself. I see like a guy that wants that and wants to be a part of that. After our first season, we have 83% retention. Our retention, our first was 80, which is unheard of. And going from fall to spring, we're at 74% retention. And that is because you got to find the guys that, one, fit the culture, fit the environment of the institution, fit the culture environment of Redding, California, fit the culture environment of Simpson University, and fit the culture environment that I, as a head coach, am trying to lay. If you can find those guys, they'll stay and they'll fight and they'll do everything they can to develop a culture. And so for me, it's a level of excitement because you kind of feel that connection. And I feel my daughter the other day, she's like, "Hey, Dad, do you have a favorite player on the team?" And I started laughing. I said, "No, I don't have a favorite player on the team." She said, "Well, you got to have somebody." I said, "You know what? Okay, I do. My favorite are the 36 guys or the 45 guys that committed when we had nothing. Those are my guys." And I said, because we're sitting in a room and we meet when the season starts, everyone who's signed in this mid-year, they left. It's just me and the guys that signed in the first class. I said, okay, the first class. Those are the guys I find an extreme connection to. And I said, so those, yeah, okay, so those are my favorite guys, babe.
Simpson University, the Red Hawks, they are this close, and we mean this, 7 o'clock local time on the weekend, as they're going to have their home opener against Pacific Lutheran in Redding, California, catching up with head coach Shawn Daniel as they are getting ready for this momentous occasion when it comes to the build here with Simpson University and getting out there on the field in the NAIA here on the College Football X. When does it seem like it has been the length of time that it's been since you signed on to be head coach to get to this moment, or has it gone by in a flash, or do you have those days where it's kind of in between where, man, it's been forever, and then you're like, nah, man, it was just like yesterday? What has this ride been like?
December 14th, 2022, I got hired, and honestly, it feels like yesterday. It feels like I've only been here a year and a half or whatever. It feels like it would happen yesterday. The level of excitement is awesome, and there's some rough days, there's some bad days, and we've had a couple of rough ones, and you go through it. But at the end of the day, Dr. Hall, our president, he is an amazing man of faith, amazing man of building and vision. And he gives me what I need to be successful. And I really cherish my relationship with the administration, especially with Dr. Hall, our president. And the other day, and we had a rough day, and College of Idaho was a rough one for us, the number 4 team in the nation. It was a rough one. But at the end of the day, and I turned to Dr. Hall, and he looked at me and he's like, "Hey, are you okay? You doing good?" I said, "Dr. Hall," I said, "I don't care what the score said. We just played the number 4 team in the nation. It was rough, but guess what? No one has it better than me. I have the best job in America. I have the best players in America. Man, I got the best staff in America. No one has it better than me." And I truly, wholeheartedly believe that. I have the best job. I have the best head coaching job in the world. And I am so honored to be here. And I tell my players that every day. And I don't care what happens on the scoreboard. We're going to figure this out together and work through it.
How do you stay as Teflon as it seems like you are? And I use the word Teflon as a reference that those of us of a certain demographic get. Those that don't understand Teflon, it's like, look, you're hard, and it's a hard surface, and it's indestructible, and doesn't matter what you do, that Teflon is going to be there. How do you stay this indestructible?
I think, been in this business 24 years, you kind of learn to surround yourself with men and women that want your success. That's it. If you can surround yourself with people that will bleed and die and cry and pray for you to have your success, those are the guys. Everything else is just noise. It's just noise. And you got to learn to block that out. I don't care what happens on Twitter or Facebook or the phone calls or the text messages or the family or friends, or I don't care. And it does not bother me because I have surrounded myself with coaches that want success. I want success. And successes look different. I asked our players, I said, "You're going to the number 4 team in the nation, and College of Idaho is one legit program. Head coach is an amazing guy. He's built something." And I'm talking to him before the game, and I asked him a question. I said, "Coach," I said, "College of Idaho year 1 team plays College of Idaho year 11 team. What happens?" And he said, "Not even close." And what happened, to us is what happened if they would have played years 1. And you got to look at it, you just got to build it day by day. And there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. There's going to be, days that you get punched in the gut and it hurts. you just got to keep moving. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not in it for a quick win, a quick victory, and move on. I want to. I've moved too many times. I tell everybody, bury me in the end zone and be happy with my life. Let's go.
You and I talked before we started the tape, and I, full disclosure, mentioned that I know about NAIA football. I know what it's like to pack up and go to Union in Kentucky. I know what it's like to go to the Cumberlands, whether we're talking the one in Kentucky or the one in Tennessee. You make the right-hand turn in Murfreesboro, you go straight up to Lebanon. That's one version of the Cumberland. That's Cumberlands, not to be confused with the Cumberlands. But I've been on these roads. I know what it's like. I know what it means to get to that last game of the year, whether we're talking about Sioux Falls or Carroll or all of these programs. For someone who has never knocked on the door of an NAIA school on a Saturday afternoon and walked in the door to see what football is like, how would you break down NAIA football for someone who's never seen it?
Yeah, that's a question. 24 years, I've only known NAIA. I've only coached NAIA football. And I have seen and been a part of, I was in Nebraska at Midland, and that was, Sioux Falls had just beat North Dakota. You're talking an NAIA national championship, just knocked it off a Division I football program. You go up like College of Idaho and give them all the credit. They did a phenomenal job recruiting. Their quarterback played at Boise State. So you're getting guys, Belleville, when they were NAIA, had a corner that went to the 49ers and had a long career in the NFL. There are guys at this level, at the NAIA level, that I would say it is equivalent to the upper level of NCAA Division II football. There is so much similarities in the talent and the ability that you got. It's fun. And the NAIA football is a great brand, and they do a phenomenal job. But I guarantee you, back in the day when they were playing, nobody wanted to play Sioux Falls or Carroll when they were in national. You're talking D2s wouldn't play them. I was at Missouri Valley with Paul Troth, one of the greatest head coaches in the NAIA, all-time winningest coach. He got so many wins, and he was talking about no D2 would play Missouri Valley College when they were rolling and they were in the Final Fours, because they're just they'll steamroll them. And so being a part of that and seeing that, just the brand of football is absolutely amazing. What Morningside has done, and now Northwestern, how they picked their program up and have done such a great job. Kaiser starting in Florida, and going from a startup football program, 4 years later win the national championship. Grandview won the national championship year 7 of their program. These are programs that I remember Grandview beating Drake. That's a Division I team. Grandview beat them, and it was like by 40. It wasn't even so. The NAIA has the caliber and the talent and the ability, especially in the Midwest and in the South. They've done a phenomenal job of branding and getting elite athletes and elite coaches. There are some of the finest coaches I've ever worked with, been a part at the NAIA level, and they just do a great job.
Last question for you, and thanks for hanging out with us as you get ready for this home opener against Pacific Lutheran on the weekend. We all have our to-do lists, and they can be in various places. Full disclosure, I think I've got 4 separate calendars that I work off of. I have the bank calendar. You remember, like when you go in the bank and the guy with the suit behind the desk, he had the glass, and then he had the calendar underneath it. I've got one of those. I've got the metal ring binder that I cut in half, and by the end of the week I hope that it's just all scribble where it's all writing at the beginning of it all. I've got the fancy Google Calendar, but since it's on my phone I can't quite access it because that's electronics and I'm really bad at that. And then I've got the calendar that's attached to the fridge, where if you have an idea at 2:00 in the morning, you're going down to get the water or whatever, and you sit there, you write an idea on that calendar, and then you look at it in the morning, you go, what was that I wrote? Where is your to-do list getting ready for this home opener against Pacific Lutheran? And what do you think the next thing that you can cross off of that to-do list is as you get ready for this moment in Simpson University history?
The biggest thing is the lot of meetings I go to in the aspect of Simpson University has never hosted a football game. They've never been part of it. So from the time of field setup to working sky coach to the game management to operations, making sure the officials are taken care of. It's just those conversations, which not a lot of people talk about, that a head coach has to do at a startup football program. So just every day having those meetings to make sure that the game experience for the fans, for for our players, for the opponent, is up to the par, up to a good experience. That's one thing. It's just kind of an everyday to do. After that, I think just getting our players to buy in every day, to understand this is a grind, that this is a absolute grind. Our starting offensive line, I have 5 O-linemen. 4 of them are true freshmen and 1 senior. Our quarterback is a redshirt freshman. He plays, he's a freshman. We have 2 running backs that are transfers. Our top 5 wide receivers playing for us are all freshmen. Our 2 tight ends are freshmen. So it's teaching them every day, like, hey, this is the expectation. This is what we lift. This is how we do classes. This is how we do homework. You're teaching everything and all aspects of their life, and you're spending time with them, and you're getting to know them on such a personal level. And that's what I enjoy as a coach. It's not always the X's and O's and the play calling. It's getting to know our players in a personal and intimate way, that way to have that, building that relationship that's going to last for decades and years after this. That's what I look forward to. You put on your calendar, but those moments when a player walks in your office unexpected and you get to connect with him because something's going on in his life, those are the moments I care deeply about, that are not scripted on my calendar, that are not scheduled. It's those moments that I look forward to in the day when that player comes in and has a problem at home, or his mom got put in the hospital, and I need a chance to talk to him and just, and pray with him and spend time with him. The unscripted moments are the greatest moments in life, and you have to embrace those. You live in that moment, and all things on side have to turn away for that moment, and it's all about the players and that relationship with them. It's so crucial in that aspect.
Sorry, I fibbed. You mentioned something about scripting, and I got to ask one more. Are you scripting? So because of this mindset, are you scripting your first 15 plays on offense?
Oh, I always script the first 5 and that's it. We'll figure how it goes. 5 plays and I'm done. I'm like, I got to think ahead. Hey, first game against College of Idaho, I had the first 5 scripted, and we hand the ball off. He would run for 51 yards. That script went out the window after the first play because we had a 51-yard gain, and now I are in the red zone. I went right to my red zone script. Yeah. So that kind of threw me off off my script real quick.
Hey, it's all good. Moment of history coming up for Simpson University as they get ready for their first ever home game in the NAIA. Head coach Shawn Daniel. Coach, we will be following what's going on. Thanks for dropping by here on the X. Good luck, and we will be catching up with you soon, my friend. Fantastic stuff that you're doing out there. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. God bless now. Go Hawks.